Welcome to the CX Roundtable. This is a really cool episode because not only is this an episode of founders, it is an episode of all female founders. And I think that that is something to celebrate right here, that these three incredible women decided to take time out of their day to hang out and talk about what they know, what they've learned, ask each other questions, answer a bunch of questions, and make it so that the idea of a founder isn't foreign, and you understand the thought process behind a lot of things that are going on in a founder's mind when they're making decisions, and also how they think about CX from those early stages to a little bit later in the game. And all three of these founders did not start their career as a founder. They have built careers in other spaces, and I'm really excited to learn how that's influenced their time as a founder, and how they think about the customer because of it. So welcome. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm Sarah Caminiti, and I'm going to let this crew introduce themselves. I'm going to start with you, Pat, if you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Thank you for having me, Sarah. Great pleasure to be here with you and these other founders in CX. So Pat Osorio, co-founder of Birdie AI. Birdie is a company that helps our clients better understand their customers. We believe that there are millions of signals out there that companies are missing about what their customers like, dislike, and Birdie helps our clients build a program and build a process where all the signals are translated into actions that will improve customer experience, pretty much. So that's us.
It's a really great tool. Really, really great tool. Next, I am going to pick on you, Niv, someone that I have known for many, many years, and I'm so, so happy that you're here.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure, Sarah. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's very special to be among, all of you women founders in CX. I've basically been in CX, I'd say, for 10 years as a frontline, started as a frontline support agent, led teams, built my technical skills, and, really thoroughly enjoyed my journey there. And I think when ChatGPT came out, I was like, oh, wow, like this is super cool. This might be like such a beautiful time to start something. And I picked a very, very deep personal pain that not just me, but every single team member I've worked with has gone through, which is keeping your help docs updated. And it just got worse with AI coming in a way where you're using AI in customer support, you're using AI in sales enablements, and literally every possible direction. And product is shipping super fast and very rapidly. So I built Pageloop.ai to help really fast moving product teams to keep their documentation updated. And it's something that I'm super, super passionate about. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here and chat with all of you. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. Yes, thank you so much. And Emma, I am so excited to introduce you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so Emma Roffey. I am now, because it's recently changed in April, one of the founders and co-CEO of a brand new company, and we're building trust-led growth in the industry and building a new trust-led growth engine. And this is my first podcast. So what a pleasure to be with not ever, but as CEO of a co-CEO of Trusted. So yeah,
Awesome.
really excited to join you all today.
Amazing. Oh, that's so cool. And what a great topic for it to be your first time coming onto a podcast as a founder, having it be all about the founder journey. And so thanks for trusting me with that.
Yeah, spent years at Cisco, many years. So coming from corporate, so quite a transition. I'm often asked about that transition. How did you go from there to this? But yeah, long time in there. So running global customer advocacy for 10 years and also VP of marketing at Cisco. So a lot of experience in the area, not so much CX in this true way, but certainly have a strong viewpoint on that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's what makes this group so wonderful. It's you're not just coming in through a singular lens. You are all solving problems about the customer and about how can you better the relationships within the companies to better the customer experience. And that is CX at its core. And your times at other companies and in other roles, you felt pain because of the customer not being heard, the customer not having the updated materials that they need, the team not having the updated materials that they need, the trust factor of everything that is kind of at the foundation of both customer and employee experience. And you're trying to solve it. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day where your background is. You felt a pain that directly impacts the customer, and you're trying to make something that improves that space, and that's really important. We need that. So let me dive into the first question that I'm going to throw your way. And Pat, I'm going to ask you this, especially because of the type of company that you have built. And do you think a company can truly be customer first without having CX embedded in its founding team?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I personally believe that you don't, unless the founding team brings somebody and gives all the authority to this person, so a blank slate for this person to embed CX in the process. So even in our case, what prompted us to start Birdie was we are those customers that never felt heard, that felt that, oh, companies send me like surveys, I answer to the service, they go nowhere. I submit a ticket to support, it goes nowhere. And then companies want to do research, they want to invest a lot of money, but why? I'm here screaming what I want, what I'm feeling the pain as a pain and everything, and companies are not using it. So a lot of I think it's easy to say you are customer centric because everybody wants to say they are customer centric, but being customer centric is much more like than building a CX team, is embedding CX as the core of the organization and make sure that like the voice of customer is used to drive strategic decisions in products, strategic decisions in processes, in sales, in marketing, and everything. So going back to your question, I think it's very hard for a company. And actually, when I go to events or talk to people, a lot of the complaints from CX teams is exactly that, oh, I'm not heard or I don't have a seat in the table. You probably heard this a lot of time, like I don't have a seat in the table. I'm not heard. I'm seen as a cost center. So if the founders or the executive team, depending on the size of the company, don't truly believe that customer centricity is a driver of growth and it's going to help them move to the next level and see that as strategic, it's very unlikely that customer experience will really be done the right way. So unfortunately, it needs to be there since the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you just basically explained the root problem so many companies face right there. And it's that CX is the core of every single thing that needs to happen with the company, and not making it the core is a choice. It is a conscious choice whether they want to believe it, admit it, or not. You can have as many customer words on your website as you want, but if the customer is not thought of in every single business decision that you make, and the experience that they have is not thought of in every single business decision that you make, then you are none of those things that are on your website. And it is something I think that you do have to have at the beginning, because that sends such a message to everybody that
Yeah.
this has to happen.
I think another way of looking at it is when you start, you're doing all roles. You're trying to go as fast as possible. There's many things you can outsource. You can outsource marketing. You can outsource sales. You cannot outsource customer experience. Customer support is not a bolt-on. If it's seen as that cost center, then it's not part of your strategy. Customers feel that. So this is not something that can be outsourced, and it's got to be within your DNA from the get-go.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I think that that is a little bit of a double-edged sword, though, because the struggle that I see with a lot of the narratives surrounding companies' foundations are anybody can do customer support. Like so I can do it. I can have, the marketing guy do it on Tuesdays, and it's not that they're not getting value out of it, but that's not who they are. They don't understand what good looks like in the real sense. They don't understand what the right questions are to ask, and how to obtain the data that you actually want to obtain. It's there's so much strategy and thought that goes into building a CX function the right way that the founder has to have that as part of their DNA. I 1000% agree. But in the same way that they have to understand that it's okay if that's not their background. And you have to have a background in this to do this well. You at least need to have people that you can bring in as advisors to check your work and make sure that you're doing it right, because as your plate gets more full, as your company starts to scale and grow and even just go through speed bumps, this thing that everybody can do that doesn't take any skill is going to just keep falling lower and lower and lower on your priority list, because you tell yourself, oh, I'll just hop on at 11 o'clock at night and bang out like 50 emails. It'll take me like 15 minutes. It doesn't take any thought at all. No big deal. And then you start getting into that habit, and then your mindset shifts from this is a really important driver for our business to this is an afterthought. And so, yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying, Emma. It has to be a part of your soul to want to do it the right way, but you have to have an expert do it the right way. And Niv, as someone who is an expert, what is it like being a founder and wearing the hat of the founder while also knowing that CX has to be handled so foundationally well from the very beginning?
Yeah, honestly, after I started this new role of a founder, I keep questioning myself how much I truly understand about CX, because every time, every day, I discover something that I could have done better. So I think it's been such a journey. A couple of things that I've noticed myself doing quite naturally, that when I see my other co-founders or my engineers, so by the way, all of them are supposed to do support in a way that even if you do it terribly, it's all right. I had someone on my team, I think yesterday, explain a technical issue in the most technical way possible, and I said it's okay. And at the same time, that's how we learn, and that's how we set the culture. All of us need to have our Slack notifications on for every single message that comes through every single customer channel. Like, I don't care if you've muted some of our internal channels. That's fine. I can call you, but if there's a customer channel that you're on, the notifications have to be on by default. Like, that's a mandate. Now, I think a few things that I've also noticed is my sales tactics are very supporty. Like, I don't know what it's actually what it's like to actually do sales, because I've spent all my career in CX. So even when I talk to customers, I think I deeply empathize. I ask them questions that sort of show them that I also have lived the pain. And I think those are things that you experience as a CX person when you're sitting on the front lines. And I think the hardest part right now for me, I'll end the answer with this, is balancing CX with long-term product. So I've now started to learn the nuance of hearing customers talk about problems, but having to come up with solutions yourselves, because customers also love to give you solutions. But at the same time, you have a much, much broader view of what's the vision that you want to build with this, product that or this company that you're running. So I think that's a nuance that I'm, just starting to learn, and it's a hard one.
Can I just build on that, Nick? Because
Yeah.
that's heard. So when I think of customer success, so I've started in sales, hardcore telesales for many years, field sales, you name it. But when a customer spoke or a prospect spoke, whatever you want to call them, you listened and you acted immediately. Otherwise, you were going to lose that sale. Then I transitioned over into marketing, and I couldn't understand, and I still don't, the pace of response sometimes versus. So I'm like, why aren't we dealing with that customer now? They said, they need help, or they're giving us this feedback. And it's like, well, yeah, we'll get to it. Not in our business now, but this is over the years. And I'm like, why aren't people responding like a salesperson? So it's funny you've sort of said on the other side, because you are listening to your question. And I think now, passionate about customer experience, I think actually starting in sales has helped me with that, because of that responsiveness and that listening and that acting on the signals that they are giving you. So I find it really frustrating when I've worked in other organizations. I'm like, why are we jumping on this? Why is no one responding so quickly? The customer has spoken. We should listen. We should act. And that pace has always surprised me. And I thought, well, maybe it's my background in sales that's what I expect, that pace to respond. So it was just interesting you said that. Yeah.
I think that's such a cool point, though, Emma, about you get to see what happens when you listen because you close the deal. And you get to see how powerful it is to make that customer feel like they're the only customer that matters, and that you're going to go and jump through hoops for them, regardless of how much you're going to be making off of it. But a customer or a prospect is a prospect, and you want to be successful. And I don't know if all salespeople approach it that way of, I want to solve this problem. I want to solve this problem so I can close the deal. I don't know what other way that you would think about it, because I'm a CX person and that's just how my brain is. But I don't see that every day of people wanting to actually solve the problem for the person.
It is that, but it's also, once you've made the sale, you don't want you want the customer to be happy after their purchase. And I think you then dread it if they're not. It's like, oh, it's sort of disappointing for the sale. So it's this, you want that customer, but then you want them to be happy to continue. And obviously there's upsell, expansion, repeat, etc. But I always remember feeling they've made that decision and now want them happy. So next time I speak to them, whether it's account management, I want them to be happy. I don't, so again, you're constantly listening. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. Of course, you want to have that same white glove experience that you experience when you're in the sales process throughout the whole time. And I think that that's a lot of what you're trying to do at Birdie, Pat, is make sure that those things that come up in sales that someone wants to solve for them to close the deal and then have them continue to enjoy the product, like, are we still listening to them? And how has that, being a founder and listening to your customers, but also building a tool that is made so that they can listen to their customers, how has that been? How have you navigated that?
Yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. One of the things we discussed prior was, what is the one thing in CX that is still a problem for your company? And in our case, we're so driven by the voice of our customers, and we are hustlers, and like we deliver things fast. That sometimes, like, we just listen to the customer. We want to deliver that quickly, and we deliver, but we don't think about the experience as a whole. And sometimes, like, our product got to a point where we have so many features that are coming as requests, that the experience is starting to be like overwhelming for some. So like, oh, how can we make sure that we're listening to the customers and delivering, but also making sure that when we deliver the full experience. And I was listening to all of you, and there was a recent study by Sturdy that was saying that the two highest causes of churn are customer experience and product. And if you think, a lot of people, when they think of customer experience, they're thinking only about support or about the extended support. But customer experience, for me, the product is part of the experience, right?
Yeah.
Like the sales is part of the experience. That's actually the third highest cause of churn is over promises in sales. So we're pretty much talking about like the whole conversation here. And for me, that's all part of customer experience. The way I'm selling and what I'm promising to you and what I'm making sure that I understand being your problem, to the way that I set the platform for you, to the way that I deliver this promise to you in support and in the product and so on. So that's very challenging. I think for us, the main thing is we listen to the customers. We are transparent with them. We make sure to tell them like what's happening, how we're prioritizing things. We make sure to show them that we're listening. Not necessarily we're executing in the speed that they want or like the way that they want. We need to tell no sometimes too, because they want something, as Niv was saying. Sometimes they have a very strong opinion about something, but that's not the best solution or the best way of solving their problem. But yeah, for me, it's almost like it's a dream life, because I'm building a company that delivers what I believe like the most, which is I'm helping companies better understand their customers, and I'm making sure that I do this in my company as well. So of course it's not easy, but it's pretty much like, oh, let's do in the house, let's do internally what we tell our customers to do. So we have a strong voice of customer program. We are not our ICP. We are an enterprise customer, and we sell to more B2C, direct to consumer customers, but still we use Birdie. So all our feedback is fed into Birdie. We use it to understand what are the top requests, what are the top complaints. We have a monthly voice of customer meeting where we bring all those requests and prioritize and send it back to customers. So it's pretty cool to use the tool and to see companies using the tool and seeing everything like aligning.
Oh, I mean, that's the dream though, really, to have a tool that actually makes sense for you to use, for your business to be successful. And then at the same time, when you push a rollout, when you release a product, you're going to feel those pains. If it was an MVP and it wasn't done fully, and you told yourself, all right, we're just going to push this out, and we'll give it a few months, and then we'll find time to actually go all the way. You get to feel what the reality of that MVP is, which is something that I think a lot of founders, at least, in my experience and the experience of others that I've spoken to, like that's a really hard one, because you are excited about things, you want to push things, you want to move fast, you want to deliver, you want to have more to talk about, but at the same time, through that you lose intentionality, and you lose your footing, because you just start building tech debt and half-made solutions to things that you maybe didn't take the time to really understand the pain point you were trying to solve for, because oh, that sounds really cool. I think that might be connected to this thing. Let's go. Let's go. I mean, I'm not a founder. I don't know if that's how the conversations go, but in my mind, that is how it probably goes. But you get to feel it. And through that, not only are you able to make better choices, but you're also in a position where you can educate companies on the impact of those choices because of the type of company that you're building. And I think with the three of you, you're building companies that can also be used to educate companies as to what good looks like. And that's really special. And I think that that's a selfless thing that you're providing to the CX community, especially because your pain is then translated to a better process, to a better product, to just a better experience. And then you can use that to be vulnerable and be honest and be like, this is what happens. This is why this matters. This is what we thought we could do and we couldn't. And now we need to rethink these things because of what we've learned. And Emma, I would love to know from your experience being in a corporate setting for so long, where things are very slow and there's a lot of red tape and there's 30 million people that have to think about things before you even change a period on a doc. What is it like now being someone that's absorbing all of this information and then being able to move?
Yeah, and still not move fast enough as we want to. We sprint is the word we're saying. We want to sprint, but we're at the stage where we're building the foundation. So we're not running before we can walk. We're not sprinting before we walk. But actually, to the point that Pat made, we actually are going to be one of our own first customers as well. So we can live and breathe that, because for us, trust, advocacy is probably the term people use, but I want to broaden. We're not just building another advocacy tool. This is a trust-led growth platform due to the changes in the buying behavior and our trust of peers more than salespeople, the shift in the buying process and want to speak to their peers. So what we found already, even though we're starting in April, we already have a network of advocates who are speaking in communities and everything on our behalf. So we want to use our platform where we can have those, and we will directly experience that, and we'll probably push our own developer team, even more so. To answer your question on that, on speed, even though in large organizations, they don't always move slowly. If you have the freedom to innovate, and I say freedom, if you have the freedom to innovate, the freedom to pilot, you can get away from speed if you pilot things, and that's where we can go faster. So, and in some respects, I wish I did have the infrastructure already, and the teams. It's like, oh, we could get that team to do, we could get this. So it's a hard thing where, as I say, we're holding back to everything we want to do, and I just wish we had the product out now and not next April. But I think what I have learned from corporate is the importance of the rigor and the process and the strong foundations and doing things really professionally. And I think that's what I would take and I want to apply. And for our ICP is enterprise. And I've deliberately done that. We're going for the complexity first, because if we can build and be enterprise ready, and back to an earlier point, in our little bit of the industry, it's not going to be so little soon, but it's growing. But there is a tendency of over-promising and under-delivering. And I hate that. I absolutely hate that. And yes, as a salesperson, it's very easy to say, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can do this. And yes, this is ready. But I know that's not going to help the customer experience. And in this industry, stories move fast. CX spreads. So it's got to be done with that rigor and that process. So despite wanting to sprint, we are walking. And so I need to get myself out. But that is right, because I will take that corporate professionalism, the structure, the foundation to what we are building now to be enterprise ready. I hope that answers the question. Sarah.
Yes. No, I think that does. And all of the things that you three have brought up, my brain is just spinning with all of these things that I want to learn about. And our poor document is definitely going to be neglected today. But no, Emma, I think that's a really cool point. And I think it goes back to the intentionality. It's when you're building a foundation, not only are you creating a solid footing for your company to be able to move forward without having to constantly move backwards and fix all of these cracks that are in the foundation that show themselves, but also you're showing your team, all of your employees, that this is how we function, this is how we think, this is how we strategize, this is how we communicate, handle difficult conversations. All of that happens when you're building a foundation. If you do it thoughtfully and purposefully and intentionally. And then it also, from the very, very beginning, you are showing the customer that your actions speak louder than your words. And I think that that is a piece that a lot of companies miss because they're so excited, because they think that they've got it enough and they'll figure it out later. And you're right, with CX, word travels fast, and the differentiators are the actual human connection. It is that customer experience that will make someone stay. Even if things get a little muddy, if they feel seen, respected, valued, heard, they'll let things go. And but if they don't feel all of those things from the very beginning, the second you have a hiccup, you have another browser tab open and you're Googling alternatives and you're setting up calls.
And this is what we call, the growth leak. Because quite often what's happening is that it is invisible. Trust is invisible. And part of our job is to make that more visible, because your customers will speak, they will influence, they are in communities, they're doing all this, but quite often as an organization, that is totally invisible to you. And that is where your leak is. So it's hiding in plain sight. And we have to make those trust signals far more visible for you.
Yeah. Well, it's so important, and it can be overwhelming. Very, very overwhelming to think of all of the nooks and crannies that these things can live, and then they prove that they're there and they made an impact, whether good or bad. Niv, I'm curious, since you've built this company and you understand the power of a positive customer experience and the way that community can influence the success of a business, I know that for at least a year you have been on a listening tour, and wanting to learn from others that are in this space. And how do you think that that has helped shape what's going to be the takeaway for the customer? Because you have all of this proof that people are feeling this, but sometimes that's hard to translate to the actual thing the customer feels.
Yeah, it's almost like there are problems and there are problems people would pay for. Now, for you to actually build a good business, you have to find problem that people would pay for. And I think my year-long journey of just interviewing, I don't know, over 200 CX leaders at this point was all about understanding that prioritization that they have in their mind. There was a lot of reading in between the lines. And for me to build conviction that this is something that I will spend the next decade of my life doing. And for that to happen, I think those chats, you were also one of those, Sarah, multiple times, in fact.
Loved it.
Very grateful for that community to sort of come together. I think just want to quickly shout out Support Driven. I think as a community, it's been phenomenal to help other CX leaders and founders like myself to understand the problems deeper. What I also realized is there is a lot hiding in plain sight. You don't actually have to go talk to people all the time. You just have to pay attention to what you're reading and seeing and the emotions. Even the react Gs people post on, add to a Slack message, you can clearly tell from that there is something that they feel. And I think just adding to what Emma said on trust, I think the whole foundation of what I'm also building is from that as soon as AI hit the market, the first function that got affected was support. And not in the best way, like people were like, oh my God, support was already like so hard. And now I have to interact with a chatbot. And it really broke my heart, like in the truest sense, to see a community and a function like support that has always, was bearing the brunt of, all the mishaps of either things happening outside the company or inside the company. And to see that function being affected the most at the very beginning, I think that drove me even further to talk to CX leaders to understand, like, how are you really feeling about all this? Like, where is your mind at? Like, people at the top, the execs are telling you to cut costs more and more. And that it's already a suffering function in terms of giving great customer experience. So I think nothing more powerful than listening, but also sprinkling in a little bit of, would you pay for that? So important. But yeah, I'm still on that journey. We'll see how that goes.
I mean, what you're doing is something that is a pain, and it usually is a head on the team to have to manage it, to do it the right way. And so, while I'm never a supporter of reducing headcount within support, I think you always need to have a little bit of more than you need in support at all times. But this is bringing time back to them, stressful time, overwhelming time, back to them, and could potentially bridge some gaps with product because you're able to flag, hey, these updates happened. You didn't tell us about them. Thankfully, the docs got updated because we have the system set up, but we've got to fix this this plan, this strategy, because we've got to be in the loop. And without a tool flagging those things, you're usually so far in the weeds that you acknowledge it, you're angry for 30 seconds, and then you've got a fire to put out, and then you're reminded of it 2 weeks later when the same exact thing happens. And so now you have it documented, and that's a gift to like have it actually taken care of. That's off your plate to have to be monitoring and documenting and tracking all of those things. You have something that is actually paying attention to this, and you're able to be like, oh, I did know about that. Oh, I knew this was coming. Or, oh, you missed one. Let's make sure that we check all those boxes next time. So, I mean, I would pay for it. So I think a lot of people would. Pat, I'm really curious about your role's evolution, because we're talking a lot about the very, very beginning and what we're thinking about in the very, very beginning. But you are a founder with a company that has been successful and has stuck around and scaled. And I'm sure that your role has evolved greatly since the very, very beginning, probably in great ways and also ways that you wish you could clone yourself. But how has it changed for you?
Yeah, no, it definitely has changed. I think the beginning, when Niv was sharing her experience, like it brought me back to a few years ago where we were doing like the same process of like talking to customers and trying to understand if the pain that we were planning on solving was a pain. I can share it later with you our experience, Niv, but I think the hardest part was exactly like understanding, okay, is it a pain that is big enough for you to pay? And not only for you to pay, but for you to prioritize like among 5, 10 different types of pain that you have. Like, so that's probably the hardest part. So I think in the beginning was, and the nice thing, if you go back to it, and it's again listening, right? And talking to the customer and looking at what the customer, like not only listening literally, but also like paying attention to what they're doing, where's their pain point, what is the friction point. So it started a lot with that. And I think until today, like the one thing that never changed was how can we keep listening to the customers and understanding what they want or what we need to give them so they can better execute their roles, and this better aligns with what we envision for Birdie and for CX as a whole. And I agree a lot with what you both were saying. I think CX is the most beautiful thing in companies. Even though I'm like a salesperson, like I think our success in selling is because we're not like traditional salespeople. We are like selling something we believe in. We're selling a solution to the problem that we know that we can help. So that's the one thing that definitely didn't change. And I think what changed it, and I think as you grow, one thing you need to learn, and that's the same thing in not only as a founder, but also in as a leader in different roles, you need to let go and know that people will do things in a different way than you do exactly. So you need to know that, oh, I would do it this exact same way, but okay, this is your way, as long as we're getting to the same goal, as long as we so that's one of the hardest exercises we did. I think also not being in the front line with the customer anymore. So until 1 year ago, 2 years ago, probably I was like personally talking to every customers. Now I'm not anymore. So that's strange for us because we love to be with the customer. So that's also changing. But how can I make sure that, the culture is there and my CX person, my customer success person, my product people person, they all have this mindset of like, oh, my customer is the most important thing for us, and I want them to have a good experience. I want them to feel heard, and you can do it in your own way as long as that is there. So that's a lot of like shift that we needed to do. It's painful sometimes to see, and good and painful at the same time. So sometimes, like maybe 3-4 years ago, if the platform was down, nobody would even notice because we didn't have enough clients or clients were not using it. Now it's like, as soon as we have a small glitch, we started receiving messages and we're like, oh, that's great. People are using and they are feeling the pain, but at the same time, that sucks because we don't want that to happen. So that's also changing. We're starting to see numbers and so on. So that's probably one of the main changes. And I think now our challenge is, so I would say, like, we had this first phase of product market fit, figuring out what the product was going to be. Now we got early growth. So we are already 30, 40 customers, good revenue, a lot of retention. But now we almost 6x this year, but oh no, now we want a 3x, we want a 4x next year. But how do I do that? Keeping our core values and keeping the quality we delivered so far. I think that's the one thing that keeps me from sleeping well sometimes.
I mean, that's a fair thing, because that's a lot to put on your shoulders and to continue to think about and to do it, wanting to do it the right way and continue to do it the right way and to prove to your customers that doesn't matter how big we get. The company that you fell in love with when there wasn't a massive team, that's still this company. We're going to make sure that stays intact. And I'm not going to call on anyone in particular for this next question. So putting you all on the spot, I'm really curious about how, I mean, Pat, you've already established your teams and your structure, but for Niv and for Emma, you're still planning probably a lot of your staffing needs. Like, since you are all thinking about the customer all the time, and that is something that you're also selling all the time, that it's important to think about your customer, how are you going to approach staffing your CX teams in a way that isn't like what we see most of the time, where it is scrappy and you wear a million hats and you're overwhelmed and burnt out? How's your approach going to be different?
I'm just going to ask Pat. And then
Yeah, I can start like, yeah, I can share what we're trying to do. So we made some like definitions that we're trying to use. So first, everybody in our customer success team. So we're also more enterprise. So we have like higher touch relationships and stuff. So everybody in our CS team didn't come from CS. They came from CX. So they are customer experience people who being in voice of customer roles, who being in CX role, quality role. So they were on the other side before coming to Birdie. So like immediately they understand the pain and they treat the clients differently. So that was one of the things that we tested. By the way, our salespeople too. So most of our salespeople, they are not like seasoned salespeople. They were in CX, and we brought them and we trained on selling because
So smart.
they all have customer centricity and that infused in them. So that was something that we did, at least for now. I think one challenge will be like, how can I find those people as we grow, and how can we train those people as we grow? But it's still something that we're putting there as well. This is a criteria that we want to make sure that we keep for the longest we can, because that helps the culture, that helps like the rapport with customer, that helps with improving the product with a lot of things. The other thing is exactly making sure that product and customer experience are very, very, very close. So it's not only the voice of customer meetings and etc., but like our product team is like literally, I think Niv mentioned, you have the Slack channel and you can't unmute anything customer related. Like anything that comes from the customer is high priority for everybody in the organization. So we all stop to look at it and understand. Again, as we grow, how can we make that in a structured way? But I think the mindset of like, oh, if it's a customer problem, it's a product problem, it's a CS problem, it's everybody's problem, is something that we defined as something that is non-negotiable for us. And in terms of like making sure that they don't get overwhelmed, maybe to that second part of the question. Again, I think it goes back to if we see CX as an isolated part of the company and they are the front line. So they are the ones that are receiving the inbound complaints, requests, all the hate is going to them. And if it sticks with them, it's too much. Like if you feel that you're alone, so I'm receiving a pain, I'm sharing with product, I'm sharing with sales, I'm sharing with anybody, and I don't feel heard, and I don't feel that they're trying to help me. That's where I think it starts to be a burden, because I think problems will happen. I think a lot of work will happen. So as long as you feel that, oh, I'm not the only one that is fighting for the client and for the problem solving in this organization, I have like a whole team behind me and helping me. Helps everybody in the company, especially CS and CX, feel that, oh, I can do this. You know, the problem came, it can be a big problem, but we're solving this together, and it's not going to be only on me. I believe that with those three things, we have built so far something that's working, and hopefully we'll be able to scale that in the next few years.
Yeah,
I love how you answered that, Pat. Yeah, because that gives you, if you said you have salespeople who weren't salespeople, you had CX who weren't CX. And I love that, because when as founders, then you're doing all roles, you know, whether you've got experience or not, you learn fast. But I think to answer your question, Sarah, and now having thought about expansion and the people I'm sort of employing, yes, I've had experience with them sometimes, but it's a mindset first. And if they've got the right mindset for this, having that customer centricity, putting at the customer first, the customer voice louder than ours, that's a mindset. And I will employ, or we will employ, people who have that mindset. And I love the fact that, Pat, that gives us sort of, not the freedom, but the permission.
The proof.
People in roles that have never had that before. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, this makes me so excited for the future, because like that is it. It is, we're hiring right now. And for the first time, I'm not pushing to hire super technical people. I'm looking for culture fits, because you can train anybody, but if their values aren't aligned, if their approach to work is not aligned, then you can't teach that. That's just kind of a part of who they are, and they will thrive in other companies that match the way that they work and the way that they think, but it doesn't mean that we have to make it work here. And I really love the way that you talked about, Pat, that shared mental load. Because I mean, also like just as a woman in general, just stereotypically, I mean, we carry the mental load all the time, and it is invisible, and it is heavy, and it is and it's lonely. And it's really hard to always be able to pull yourself out and be like, these are all the things that you can take off my plate that you should have seen needed to be taken off my plate, but for some reason you did not choose to do so. Like that takes time, and that takes energy, and that takes more brain power that you probably are lacking. And so having it be in the culture of, you're not alone. You don't have to carry all of this sadness and anger and negativity when things go south. And you also aren't going to be alone in shouting about all of the wins from the customers either. It goes both ways, because that is our culture, and our culture is we do this together because CX is connected to everything. And Niv, you were nodding in excitement when I was talking about the mental load, and so I'd love to know what your thoughts on that are.
I mean, I think one point to your previous question about approaching CX in expansion, I think it I think the way we're approaching it right now is even something as small as a error message on Pageloop's app has to be very clearly modeled. So I think there is opportunities for CX outside of your traditional like CS or support or any of those roles. There are very product based, even our email notification that goes out for any small thing. Like we pay a lot of attention to each and every part of those things. I think there is so much opportunity for CX. And I think that shows the quality of what you're going after. So I think that's kind of something that I'm seeing now. As someone who is kind of getting a bird's eye view while also getting into the nitty gritties. I know my team sometimes gets annoyed with me when I say, oh, like this little button should have been a little bit on, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, do you not see? Like they may accidentally click that if they were trying to do something. So anyway, I think
Yeah.
that is, definitely one part. I think on the mental load, yeah, I think all of us feel that constantly. I think we're all, or at least most of us, or how I see myself, I love planning things. I love thinking about the future. And that does come with mental load of figuring out what I need to focus on today and what I need to focus on for the year. And that does add a lot of pressure to do things well, to do things very thoughtfully and empathetically. So you're not just thinking about your own goals, but you're also thinking about how your goals affect others. What are others' goals? How does that affect you? And it's all happening in like microseconds. So when you said that, I was like, oh my God, yes. That is, such an important, part of being a founder, a woman founder. It's something that I've had to teach my team in certain senses that, hey, like at this point, I expect you all to be thinking about CX at least 50% of the way that I think about CX. That, every part of these things have to be tested. There can't be, silly bugs that we could have very easily avoided because we just, chose to overlook the smaller details. I think the smaller details is where the mental load comes because you're thinking till the final 100% of that task. You're not just thinking like 80% of the way because the quality on anything comes post the 80% till the 100. So the 80 to 100 is where the mental load, I think, spikes up, which I can very clearly see in a founder role. I know all of you here, including you, Sarah, even though you say you're not a founder, like technically you run these podcasts, you've been doing this for so long. I think you should also accept that you are.
Thank you very
Yes.
much. I will take that hat. It's very kind. But it's so true. It's so true. And I love that you made the comment about the button because that's something that I bring up a lot when I'm talking about product and I'm talking about weaving CX into all of those decisions because you have seen what happens when you don't think about the button. You've felt what happens when the button is too close or when the docs don't explicitly say you have to click this button here, but they skip over to the next thing. And every time a customer reaches out or every time a customer has to pause and be like, did I do this right? They're putting doubt in their ability to be successful using your product. And that doubt, it is a seed that every single time it shows itself, it's watering that seed. And eventually they will feel like this is not a space that they can be successful and they are not being heard because, no one's paying attention to the buttons. And, and that's just it's such an easy thing to do right. But you have to always be thinking about doing it right, which is where that mental load comes in. But also, you're teaching your team how to have that not be invisible labor on your part, having it just be a Tuesday. This is what you do. This is a normal thing for us to think about. This isn't a thing that I wake up in the middle of the night because I realized something. This is something that we all probably wake up a few times because we're all thinking about it. And that shared ownership, not in a it's everybody's responsibility, therefore it's nobody's responsibility sense, but in the way that it should be of, in order for us to be successful, every single space needs to be able to have a voice and to shine. And all three of you are building tools to prove how important it is, because that's what these tools do. That's why AI has been such a wild ride in CX, because it's finally proven all this stuff that we've been doing manually for years actually drives things forward. And it's because you've been listening and because you felt the pain that you're able to be like, yeah, this is so important that this, like you said, Pat, needs to be at the top priorities on your list of problems to solve. And to have it be women that are leading it is also sending a message of, this is an undervalued space. And here are people that are usually undervalued, especially in the founder space. And we're thriving because we're doing it right. And we're showing that you can care about this stuff. It's not something that's going to cost you in the end. It's actually going to cost you if you don't. And Emma, like you were saying, like with Pat explaining how she's doing it in her company, that's proof. That is the missing thing a lot of the time. And that's what I've learned when it comes to leadership, when it comes to your company as a whole, when it comes to CX, when it comes to just life in general. It is so easy to go back to what's safe, even if you know it sucks and it's terrible, because that's all you know. That's all you've ever seen. So it has to be done this way if everybody's doing it this way and they never do it any other way. But when you actually see people do it differently, then it's like, oh, I'm not alone. This is safe. This works. There's proof. And it's through conversations like this that makes me really happy, because now you know that Pat thinks about it this way. And now you can talk about it and be loud about it. And, it's just, it's a really powerful thing what the three of you are doing.
Yes, it's absolute evidence. It's, what we're about is, I suppose we're the positive side of CX at Trusted. We're trying to amplify those positive voices and enabling those peers to get, so, the Pat has done that through bitter experience, and I trust that and the experience that you've had and you've put that in place far more than I trust a white paper or someone saying, well, you should do it like this, or a consultant. It's like, no, I want someone who's had that experience, and then I will trust, you implicitly to do that. And then, that's what we're about, is in the buying process, is connecting those peers and amplifying those voices from the people you trust. And that's what so it's, it's harnessing all that positive experience from CX, which today, I have to say, does go unharnessed. Sometimes it, as I said, it is an invisible, and we just want to, make it visible, understand the impact it has on that growth that it can have when you do have a good customer experience and a really positive experience. So it's trusting your peers.
Yeah, I love that, because one of the I think most shocking things that happened in the recent was we helped a customer migrate from a different tool to Intercom for their help talks. And they didn't ask for it. It was never part of the plan they paid for, none of that. But we were like, hey, it's going to take a long time for you to do this. Like, you have hundreds of articles. How are you planning to do it? And they were like, oh, you know what? We're just going to copy paste it. And we were like, don't worry about it. Like, we're going to figure this out. And I think 2 days later, they were like, we want to take you out for lunch. And I was like, what? And as like a customer wanting to take their vendor out for lunch, it's usually the other way around. I think it's so powerful. Like, you don't have to do, and it took us literally 30 minutes to do that. Like, to write a little script that migrated their articles over. It didn't really matter. We did that and we forgot. We moved on to the other thing. But for them, it was such a huge deal. And I think it's in those small moments, in those, very little like experiences that you're able to create. So it doesn't have to be like this grand gesture of like, sending massive gifts to your customers or, big product launches. Like, they are not going to remember any of that, but they will remember that you wrote a script for them to migrate and save them hours and hours and hours of time. And yeah, I think speaks to the experience I think that all of us want to show. And I think like Pat and Emma, both of you said that you're also your own customers of your product. I think that's such a fundamental aspect of me being able to trust somebody to say, hey, like, if you are telling me and you face this problem, you built this out of your personal pain, I will take your word for it over someone Gartner doing some research of like, 30,000 companies in the world. Like, yeah, whatever, it's numbers, but you're speaking from personal experience. So I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Emma.
I'm so bummed that we are out of time. I didn't touch a single thing from our Word doc, and I could keep talking to you ladies forever. But what is one just like quick thing that you want to end with that? I mean, I've been toying with like 27 different questions to ask you guys for this last one. But I think, like, what's your favorite part about being a founder? Because it's such a leap of faith, and it's a big deal. And what, just really quick, what's each of your favorite things so far about being a founder? Emma, I'll start with you. I'll just go right around.
Thanks. I don't. Oh God, I don't know. It's so new. I don't know. I don't know. What is it? I suppose it's just the. It's just the. I don't know. What is it? What's my favorite part? It's just it's being able to put a dream into action, I suppose. That's what it is, and a strong belief to solve a problem. And hopefully people will pay for our problem that we're solving. So I like that. But it's when we went for investment, and someone said, if we went to some angel investors as well, a whole different story about investment. But I did the stomach test, the gut test. I thought, if a friend of mine or someone else they're prepared to put their hard-earned money into us. And I thought, how do I feel? Does my stomach go, ooh? But not at all. Not at all. And I was like, great. And I thought that was a real acid test.
Yeah.
That I suddenly worried, someone's going to do that. Oh, we're not going to. There's no question in my mind that we're not going to be successful. There's no horrible stomach feeling. So it's that passion, being able to put that dream and that passion into place. I think that's the most exciting thing. About being a founder. And I read somewhere, if I could just end on something, you to decide whether you want to keep this in or not, Sarah, but learning fast. And I learned that if you do any podcast, you should always have a call to action. And I thought, okay, as a founder, what's my call to action? And we have the offer for any listeners of you can call it an advocacy maturity matrix, a trust maturity matrix that gives you an assessment of where you are and the level of trust and trust-led growth in your organization. So if anyone is listening, then that is my offer as well.
Oh, awesome. I'll put it in the show notes and make sure that link is available to everyone. I mean, I'm going to go and check it out as soon as we get off of this call. That sounds really, really cool.
That's when I asked, when's it going out? Because I've got to finalize it. So,
okay, I'm not going to see it right now, but don't worry, listeners. By the time this comes out, it will be ready for you to rock and roll.
Make it externally available, which we're just doing that. So we're working at fast pace. This one I'll sprint at. I don't need to walk this one. I'll sprint at that one. Okay.
Well, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. What about you, Pat? What's your favorite thing about being a founder?
Besides what Emma shared, I think putting your dream and turning that into reality, that's definitely great. I think the other thing that sometimes is not great, sometimes it feels bad, but it's like you don't have excuses of like, oh, I can't do this because a lot of times if you're in an organization, you have like blockers
Yep.
somehow. And when you're the founder, of course, you have other founders, you have a bunch of things, but it's on you. If the culture is bad, it's on you. If like the product's not good, it's on you. And then so that's great. Like knowing that this responsibility slash opportunities there is great.
Oh, that's so cool. It's true though. It's really I love that you have a positive way of thinking about that though, because it could go south in people's minds, when they're thinking about having that be a part of their role but it shows in how you show up, how much you care about it and how much joy you get out of doing it right. And I think that's really cool. And you, Niv, what's your favorite?
Yeah, I was trying not to think about the answer because I really wanted to hear Emma and Pat. Um, I'd say there's two things. One is it's been the biggest karmic growth in the sense of I never imagined being a founder. Like it never crossed my mind. Uh, and at the same time, it feels like the right thing to do. Um, to, I think, take something that's just an idea because ideas are plenty, but going out there, getting funding, finding co founders, hiring your first, set of team who believe in you when there's literally nothing, like absolute zero customers. And I think that really blew my mind when I actually went through that entire process of like raising funds and like talking to potential co-founders, one of who turned out to be my husband who knew. And so a lot of those things where you don't realize that it's even possible are actually possible. So I realized that how much I kept underestimating myself, but then when I sort of crossed that chasm, I realized that it's actually possible. And the second one, I think that really surprised me. I never saw myself as I'm a woman like founder, but the minute I put that on my LinkedIn, I had so many women actually reach out to me and be like, "Hey, how do I do this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I would love to tell you everything because it's actually possible." And I think it gives you so much freedom. I felt that freedom, when the first time I drove a car by myself. I think I feel like it's a similar kind of freedom that you feel. So I think those are my like two favorite moments of being in this journey.
Thank you three so much for trusting me with this conversation, for being open to this conversation. I may bug you to come back because Emma, you touched on it really quickly. The whole investor piece of things I think could be a really interesting conversation as well. But I know you guys are busy and we have gone over time. But thank you three so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And yeah, thanks.